Well, are you guys getting a little tired of these complicated paintings I've been doing recently? I'll tell you, the last few have been pretty complicated, so this time I'm slowing it way down and I'm going to be doing something really simple. So this will be great for you beginning painters. So let's just go get started. As always, I have prepped my canvas first and by using a clear oil medium. And the next thing I want to do is add a beautiful shade of yellow. This is Indian yellow. I love this color. And I just want to cover my whole canvas. So I'm just going to do that whole thing all yellow. And all my materials are going to be listed below in the description area. So after I put the yellow on, now I want to just take orange. And I just want to add a little bit to the top and the bottom. And if you don't have orange already, then you can just mix red and yellow together and make your own orange, which is sometimes really prettier than any orange you can buy. So just go ahead and make an orange and start filling in on the corners. Next, I want to go into some brown. And what I want to do is just deepen these corners a little bit. You pretty much know that you just want to draw your eye into the center of the painting, and the best way to do that is by darkening all your corners, well, especially your top two corners, but usually all the corners. Anyway, just go ahead and just start filling that in and just blend it in. I'm just using a 1-inch landscape brush. Works beautifully for this. This canvas is an 8 by 10, so it's a small one. I wanted a really small one this time just because I like a small canvas. And it's actually a canvas panel. So now I've got my horizon line in and I'm just darkening the corners a little bit more. And just blend that to your heart's content. I've gone about a third of the way. So now I want to grab some white, and this is on a clean brush, still a landscape, 1-inch landscape brush, and just get a good amount of white on your brush. And right where I want this moon or the sun, whatever you can have, if you want a moon, that's fine. If you want a sun, that's fine. But just in that area, about a third of the way in, from the left, I'm just brightening that. I just want a really brighter area there. And just blend that in with the rest. I'm not pressing real hard. This is a light blend. Always when using this brush, I use a light touch. So a little more white. And let's go down into underneath where the moon or the sun would be. Just go ahead and just lighten that water a little bit. I don't know why I decided on a warm seascape. I don't usually do warm colors. Very rarely that I do warm colors. I'm more of a bright person. I like a lot of bright colors. But for some reason, just this warm color just struck me this time. So now with my filbert brush, get a good load of paint on here. I want to start adding just a few little wispy clouds. I don't want these real bright. They're just kind of little light clouds just passing through the sky on their way to somewhere. And let's do a little bit more on the other side. Let's start up higher this time, going from the top and just coming down. And just blend that into your background. Nice little puffy clouds. Now this is just my demo canvas to show you what I'm doing. I took contact paper and I cut out an oval. And then I put it on my canvas. No paint, nothing underneath it. There's no medium or anything. Once that's done and you've got your painting in, then you just simply lift the circle off and voila, you have a perfect circle. Now this can be for the sun or the moon, whichever your choice. But whatever you decide, just go ahead and just start filling that in, whatever color you want. It could be a beautiful blue moon, it could be a blood moon, it could be any color of moon or sun that you choose. Just don't leave it pure white like that. So my next tip is using my finger, and you've all seen me do this 100,000 times. No, not that many, just kidding. But you've seen me use this method a lot because it's easy. You don't need any tools. You just simply get your finger in the paint and then put the paint on the canvas. My next tip is using a cover. If you can find the right size cap or a cover to a jar, just put that into your paint and spread your paint out real thin, and then just give your cap a few taps on the paint. That'll pick up just enough paint. And then you carefully place it on your canvas right where you want that moon or the sun to be. And then just press a little bit and you'll get a perfect circle again. And then you just have to fill it in. And then you can, again, you can use any color that you want, but you do have, doing this way, you have to be careful of the lines. You have to be staying in the lines. Now my next tip is my brush, and I've used this method a lot too. I really like the way the brush makes a circle because it's just easy. Once you get the hang of it, you just load that brush pretty well, and then you just go straight into the canvas and press and turn, and just try to turn all the way around. Now, it doesn't always work the first time, so guess what? We're going to do it a second time, and that's fine. You can do it as many times as you need to get a perfect circle. So again, just go around, and this works out very well most of the time. However, when I found this, I thought, wow, this is a lifesaver. This is a sponge dabber. This particular one is by Martha Stewart, and I'll tell you, this is so neat. I just love it. It comes in a pack, so you can get all these different sizes, and those sponges actually come out of that plastic case so that you can clean it real easily with soap and water, which is what I use for cleaning. So you just take your sponge, you spread your paint out real thin first, just like we did before. Just spread it out nice and thin. Then take your sponge dabber and just maneuver that in there a little bit, and you know, every once in a while just grab a little yellow or something, or whatever color you're using for your sun or your moon. Just grab a little color in there so it's not a pure white. And then you just go into your canvas and just put that down. And once you put it down, give a little push and a little turn. And just do that a couple times, and look at that. A perfect, perfect moon or sun. This is going to be my favorite tool. I love this. Okay, so now back to the real painting. So we're just going to do that same thing. I want to add just a touch of yellow in there because I don't want pure white. Just give it a few twists and turns. Decide where my moon or my sun is going to be. I haven't decided what this is yet, whether it's I don't know what it's going to be, moon or sun, whatever you choose, whatever you decide to call it, that's what it is. So pressing, and isn't that beautiful? Oh, I just love that. It's just great. So now back to my filbert brush. Now this is a clean filbert brush, and I want to go in and just make some way distant mountains, just a little bit of land way back there. Just loading both sides of my brush and just making these little hill shapes. And come down into the water just a tiny bit. And let's do that also on the other side. Again, keeping this really small, but keep it interesting. And a little bit in the water. Now doesn't that add, don't you think that adds something to the painting? I think it does. I like that distant land feel. And we're going to add, now I want to start using a little crimson, a little green into the brown. And let's start making some land area. So I want to go in the left-hand lower corner and just spread that paint around. And you notice that I'm keeping all my colors very warm this time. And let's load that brush again. And let's start on the other side. Again, just making an interesting shape here. And if you want to cover the whole bottom and all the way across, you can do that. I just sort of left a little opening here, but you don't have to. Anything I can, anything I do, anything I paint, you can modify to your own liking. It's not critical that you follow my tutorials step by step. A lot of people send me paintings that they have done where they've used my idea, but they've totally changed it around and just, oh, I tell you, some of my viewers have just done some absolutely stunning paintings. So anyway, let's go back and load this brush some more, varying my colors, sometimes more green, sometimes more red, other times brown. And let's give this a grassy feel. With my bristle brush, just lifting upward, making those little grasses. And I want to add a little bit of darker color in the corners especially, so that the ground would be kind of uneven. It's not real smooth. You want a very uneven ground. So that's looking good. I like that. And let's load that brush again. Let's start making our little palm trees. Now I've decided on 3 palm trees for this painting, but if you want only 1 or 2, you can do that. You don't have to do what I'm doing. But this one I'm going to have 1 on the left side, and I'm going to do 2 on the right side. And I'm not filling in real heavy, but probably I will go over this again later. I just, I'm thinking that I'm going to, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, we'll see. I never know what I'm going to do. Oh, okay, loading the brush again. Let's make this little 3rd palm. This one's a small one, much shorter. Goes right down into the grass here. And just let's do a little bit of lifting up the grasses around the trunks. Perfect. Now what I want you to do is take your knife and just pull that white paint out really nice and flat. And I want you to get just a very thin roll of paint on your knife and just start tapping, because we're going to make this little shimmer in the water. This really looks cool. I love this effect. Don't get too thick of a roll, because if it's too thick, it'll just glob on there and it won't look right. So try and make your rolls really thin, and then just light tapping. Just tap, tap, tap. And be sure and stand back at a distance so that you can see where you're actually working, so you can see where that glow is happening. Sometimes it gets off to the left or the right too far and it looks really weird, so standing back really helps you figure that out. So just put as much shimmer in the water there as you would like. And I think this is good for me. I think I'm going to stop here. Then with your landscape brush, just lightly blend across. And that kind of puts a little yellow in the water too, which keeps it from being a pure white. Now I'm using just, you can use liquid clear, a clear oil medium, or you can use thinner. Depending on what if you're using oil paints, you'll probably want to use thinner to thin your paint. Clear oil medium works really well. If I'm using regular oils, I will use the clear oil medium. If I'm using water mixable oils, then I use the thinner because I really like the way the thinner works. It thins out the paint just enough, and so that's what I would do. So when you're making these trees, these little palm trees, when you're making the palms, it sometimes helps to draw out the little leaf stem first. You don't have to do this, you can freehand it, but some people need a little help when they're just starting. So if you draw these little spokes, you know, almost kind of like an umbrella, it'll give you a path to follow. And then when you make these little palms, be sure to fill it in the center, where the center of the tree is. Make that part thicker, and then as you come out to the end, you taper it so that it's very thin. But you have to have thin enough paint that you get these beautiful little wispy edges. Palm trees, I must say, they are my favorite tree to paint. Out of all the trees that you can paint, palm trees is my very favorite. There's a lot of great ones out there, but I like this one. I guess because it reminds me of Hawaii, one of my favorite places in the world. Anyway, you can see what I'm doing here. If you're doing this with me, just follow along nice and slow. Make sure you get a good load on your brush. And let's bring this tree, I want this tree a little bit higher because I want this to go off the edges somewhat. So go ahead and make a couple of spokes if you need to. That gives you some direction. And how about one way up off the top here and way off the side? Perfect. Now just fill in towards the center of the tree. Doesn't that turn out nice? And also I'm varying my shades. You can see every once in a while I have a little bit darker shade. That's because I've put a little more green in the brown. And I think that really gives it a nice added touch of color. So just keep working around your tree. There's no specific number of palm leaves that you can have. It's up to you how many you want. I try to vary it so they're not all exactly identical. You want to make some longer, some shorter. Like this one, let's bring it right down over the other tree. So that really looks nice when they're crossed over like that. Now, with my liner brush and getting a good amount of oil on my brush, or thinner, whichever you're using, let's make some little birds. And this is just a nice M shape. Basically an M shape. And then I just pounce in the middle here and thicken that one wing, and that just gives a nice seagull look. I guess they call them gulls, not seagull. I've always called it a seagull. We have a lot of them here in Oregon where I live, over on the coast. Tons of gulls. Anyway, I'm going to make these little birds here, and you can follow along with me on these. I do have, I think, well, it's on my Facebook, that doing different birds. It's kind of fun. And I just want a few little ones off in the distance here. So I've got 3 main ones and then a couple of little ones. And then let's go ahead and just add a boat in here. I just think that would add a little more interest. And so just with brown, that's all I have is brown on my liner brush. And just kind of fill in the shape of a boat. There's no right or wrong. If you want to make a sailboat, you could do that. You can make a fishing boat, any kind of a boat you choose. But mine is just very, very simple. And it's got to have some little people on it. Now this is just a little tap. It just kind of gives you the suggestion there's people there. You can't really see it. It's not distinct, but there's definitely little people there. And just make this as big or as small as you want. And you could make it a different color if you wanted to also, but I chose to stay with my brown shades in this particular video. So I like this. This is fine. I like this little boat. Let's also have one off in the distance here, just a smaller one. And because it's more in the distance, it wouldn't be quite as dark as the foreground one. And it's got to also have a few little people in here. Just little indications. And it's got to have a little bit of shadow. I'm not pressing hard, a very, very light touch. I've decided I don't like this bird right here, so I'm just going to take it out, and I'll fix this later after the painting dries. And so that's what I'm going to do now, is going to let this painting dry, and then I'll do my little touch-ups, and I will be back with you just shortly to show you what the finished results are. Well, you're probably wondering what I did to finish off this painting and do the highlights. The first thing I did was let it dry for about 10 days, and then I've covered the whole canvas all over again with a liquid clear. Then I proceeded to brighten my clouds a little bit, work a little bit on my tree trunks. I also put a light glaze, a yellowish color, over the moon and the water because it was too white. So now I like the color a whole lot better. And let's see, I guess that was about it. I think that's all I did on that. And I like it much better now. It looks very nice. So anyway, well, thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.